Hello everybody, welcome to another Flaming Dice Reviews video. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be taking a look at Dead of Winter, the wildly popular game by Plaid Hats Game. Dead of Winter was released last year in 2014, but for a very long time, due to a shortage of copies of the game, it was very hard to get a hold of. I couldn't even play it until about a month ago, whenever my local gaming store got it in stock. So once it came in, of course I grabbed it. There has been a lot of debate about it on review forums and videos on YouTube, and a lot of people have called it a luck fest. Is it just a luck fest, or is there a good deal of strategy? Well, let's take a look at what comes inside of the game, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. So I'll meet you back here for my final thoughts in just a little bit. The very first thing we're going to do is take a look at what all comes inside of the Dead of Winter box. And as you can see, it is quite a good little bit of components. This can also make setup a little bit of a task. We're going to go around the table and I'll show you everything that comes in the box. Starting in the foreground here, we have your player mats. There's one for each of the 5 players, but I've only put one out just for the purposes of this demonstration. We have the dreaded red die of doom, which determines damage if your players have to fight a zombie or change locations. In most cases, unless a ability specifies otherwise, you have to roll that die to see if you take damage. You have your action dice. Each player has the number of characters they control plus 1 in action dice, and these action dice can be used to perform different actions that the cost of which vary by the characters that a player controls and the action. You have your main colony board here, including movable round markers and morale trackers. Then we also have the crisis deck, and every round and different scenarios have different amounts of rounds. A crisis is selected, and that's basically just something bad that's going down at the colony, and you have to figure out how to stop it. Usually it's a matter of gathering the correct sort of item that crisis calls for. Then you have your main objective, and there's a lot of different objectives, and they are double-sided. One is a regular side, another is a little bit harder, hardcore side. In this scenario, we have stockpile, which that's just the players are trying to get a leg up on a food supply and gather a lot of food. Back in the back, we have our cutout stands, our cutouts for the characters, the survivors. Then in the back, we have our zombie cutouts. Then we have our 6 locations outside of the colony. Those are the school, the gas station, the police station, library, hospital, and the grocery store. And each one of these locations can be visited, it can be fortified. Zombies can go there, so you can encounter zombies while away from the colony. And each one has a higher likelihood of gaining a certain type of item. For example, the grocery store has a very high chance of finding food, medicine, and the hospital has a high chance of finding medicine and gas. The police station has a high chance of finding weapons and gas and tools. So they vary by location. Over here we have our helpless survivor tokens. I don't know if you can see this. Yep, it's just in the camera range. And these are survivors at the colony that cannot perform actions. However, they can eat, and they have to eat. If they die, your morale drops just like if a contributing member dies. Have your barricade tokens, which can be used to barricade the entrances to the colony as well as the outside locations, and that just helps you slow down the zombies that are approaching that location. You have your double-sided wound tokens. One side is a regular wound, the other side is a frostbite wound. You have your zombie tokens, which can be used if you run out of zombie stand-ups or the cutouts. Or they're also used for certain objective scenarios, like there's one where you have to gather tissue samples for a scientist at the colony. You have your food tokens and your starvation tokens, which if you don't eat, you're not happy. or at least the people in the colony are not happy, and morale will drop. You have your noise tokens. So if you go to one of these outside locations and search, and you don't find what you're looking for, but you lack the actions to search again, you can always rummage. And rummaging causes noises, or causes noise. And if you cause noise, you have a chance of drawing more zombies. You have your secret objective deck. Not only do the characters have to complete the main objective, each player also gets a secret objective, and you lose the game if you do not complete both the main objective and your secret objective, and some of them are harder than others. You also have your exile deck, so players can be banished from the colony, and that player takes all of his survivors, leaves the colony, and their gameplay rules change, as do their objectives. They get an exiled objective. You have your other main objective cards, which we're not going to use right now. We've already got our stockpile objective. You have your starter items. You have your character cards. So these list your abilities, and we'll be taking a look at those in just a moment. And if you're searching somewhere and you find some survivors, which some cards say 1 survivor, 2 survivors, 3 survivors, it'll tell you how many helpless survivors to add to the colony. And then you also get to draw from the top of the survivor deck. You get to see which survivor you found, and then you get to take their cutout and place them in the colony. And that is, of course, another mouth to feed. And then probably the most original part of Dead of Winter is the Crossroad cards themselves. And we'll be taking a look at those as well. Basically what those are is players, as a player takes his turn, the player to his left, or I believe it's left, draws a Crossroads card. If the active player does the thing that is listed on the Crossroad card, this is a conditional card. If the active player does those things, then the Crossroad card triggers, and you have a choice to make usually. Sometimes it's a choice the active player has to make, sometimes it's a choice the group has to make. So let's take a look at some of the individual components of the game. Let's take a look at 2 very important decks of cards that come in Dead of Winter that can really affect gameplay. And that is the Crossroads deck on the left and the secret objective cards on the right. Now the Crossroads card, every single turn that a player takes, the player to the left of the active player draws one of these cards. And he or she reads the text at the top that's in italics. And that might be a little bit hard to see, but I'll explain the gist of it now. For example, a player takes his turn. The player to the right or to the left of the active player draws a Crossroads card for the active player and keeps it in secret. Now, if that active player does the italic text, does what's in italics at the top, or meets those requirements, then the Crossroads card activates. For example, this one says if the player moves a survivor. So if the player just moves a survivor, this Crossroads card triggers, and it's going to give you a story and then 2 options. Some of them, both of the options are bad, and some of them, and one option is good, one is bad, and some you really have to balance. And if it says options, that means the player gets to make the choice himself. Now in this example, called Airplane, it says if the player moves and Sophie Robinson, one of the survivors, is in play, that they find an airplane. Now it has a thumbs up option and a thumbs down option, meaning that the group has to vote on whether or not they do the thumbs up or the thumbs down option. Thumbs down option, nothing happens. With the thumbs up option, the players remove 1 tool card, 1 fuel card, and Sophie Robinson from the game to gain 1 morale. So you lose one of your characters, one of your survivors, but you get a little bit of morale back. So it's always a balancing act. Now the secret objective cards are a little bit different. At the beginning of the game, you have your overall card objective, and that's the objective that every player is working towards. However, there could be a betrayer in your midst, or a traitor in your midst, I should say. So every player gets one of these secret objective cards that they have to complete on top of the main objective. So for this one, it says all I need is my books. So you win the game if the players beat the main objective, and one of the players that you control, or one of the survivors that you control, has 2 books equipped. Well, that's pretty easy. This one, Desire to Live. You win if all the players have completed the main objective, and you have a weapon, a food, a gas, and a medicine card in your hand. Now that's a little bit trickier, because if you have those things in your hand, that means you did not contribute those items to the crisis. You might have starved last round. You might have starved the colony just so you could hold that food in your hand. And if the players ever get wind of that, then they'll probably think you're the traitor, even though you're not. You're just trying to complete your secret objective. Now, there are some secret objectives that say betrayal at the bottom, and those are traitors, and they're not concerned with the main objective. And this one, this character wins if morale is at 0, if they have at least 2 survivors in their following, so they're controlling 2 survivors, and they have at least 2 medicine cards and 2 tool cards in their hand. Starter items do not count. So this player is hoarding medicine and tools, not contributing them, and actively doing things to try to sabotage the group. So you have to watch out for a possible traitor. And each game has a possibility of a traitor, but there's not necessarily going to be one. It's left up to chance. So you're never quite sure if there's going to be a traitor or not. Let's take a look at the player area and the start of the game. At the start of a regular sized game, we'll just say a 4-player, each player is going to get 4 character cards dealt to them randomly. In this example, we have Bev, the mother, Buddy, a fitness trainer, Daniel, the sheriff, and Forrest, the mall Santa. Now, each one of these characters has different abilities and different stats, as well as different influence scores. And all those are important, and we'll go over those in just a moment. But we're going to focus on the start of the game, where we choose 2 characters. For example, I'm going to take Daniel Smith, and I'm going to make him my group leader. And then I'm going to choose Buddy Davis as one of my followers. Now, as the game progresses, and you find more followers out in the world, either through a crossroads card or through searching at locations, you can add them down to your following. And if you are ever exiled, all of your characters go with you. Let's take a closer look at the action board, or at least the bottom part of the action board. The top part just lists your available actions and the play or the turn phase and the order in which things happen. But the bottom part shows your unused action dice and your used action dice, and we'll just focus on our followers here. And I'm going to explain these stats to you. If you take a look at the top right, there is a number with a red circle around it, 36, 66, and 12. That is a character's influence. For example, Daniel Smith has an influence of 66. So if an event caused a player with the lowest influence to die at a location, and Andrew was at that location, he has a very low influence, so he would have a very good chance of dying. Now, the numbers just below the influence are a character's attack and search values. So and the way this works is at the beginning of a turn, a player has the number of action dice equal to his number of characters plus 1. So in this example, we have 4 dice because we have three characters. Normally there'd be a group leader up here, but just for the sake of this example, we're not going to worry about that. So we rolled a 5, a 5, a 1, and a 2. Now, actions require, or some actions require an action dice to be rolled or used. And that's where these stats come in. For example, Buddy can attack a zombie and kill a zombie on a score of 2 or higher. and he can search on a score of 4 or higher. Daniel is really good at attacking and not very good at searching because he has to have a 5 or more. Andrew is middle of the road, and he requires a 3 and a 3. Other characters, for example, Maria here, is not too great at attacking, but really good at searching. She also has an ability. Once per round, you may kill 1 zombie at the school. Do not roll for exposure. And we'll get into that in a moment. But every player has a little ability down here. But for the sake of this example, we're going to stick with Daniel. So we're going to take this 5 and use it to search with Buddy. He requires a 4 or more. We'll put that in our use action die, and that'll be one of our actions. We're going to take this 2, and Daniel is going to kill a zombie with it and put it in our used. We're going to take this 5. Andrew's going to search with it, and then we're going to take this 1. Well, none of our characters have a 1 or higher. Now, some of the characters do. Some of them are really, really good searchers or really, really good finders. But there's also actions that you can do that do not require a specific number. They just require a action die, like building a barricade at the colony. So we'll say that Buddy is at the colony. He'll use this last die, this 1, to build a barricade there. Now let's take a look at the colony itself. Now every turn you have to worry about several things. You have to worry about the active crisis. You have to worry about the amount of food in the food supply, and you have to worry about zombies overrunning one of the entrances to the colony. Now on a player's turn, they can play face up into the waste pile food cards. Now this says food 1, and you can add a food token to the food bank down here, to the food supply. Now each 2 characters inside of the colony, including the helpless survivor tokens, each 2 requires 1 food. In this case we have 2, 4, 6, 8 characters. 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 characters, but that's essentially the same as 8. 7 and 8 require the same amount of food. So we would have to contribute a good bit of food to the food supply in order to get the 4 food tokens required to feed the colony that turn. If we were unable to feed the colony, we would get a starvation token and morale would go down. And that starvation token ensures that if we don't eat in the future, morale drops at an even faster rate if we don't get enough food. Now anytime we contribute to this waste pile here, yes, we get the benefit of it, like the food tokens, but we also have to be careful. If too much trash accumulates, then we lose morale for that as well. So one of those sort of free actions, well, it takes a die, but it doesn't matter what the number is to take out the trash. So yes, you even have to do chores in this game, which might turn some people off, but I think it's great. Now, for each round we have a crisis that comes up. In this case, it's food spoilage, and players have to contribute food to the crisis. Now they do it in secret, so a player has to contribute things face down. Now on their turn, they can contribute to the crisis, and if we meet this, in this case it's the number of non-exiled players. So if this was a 4-player game, we would have to have 4 food into the crisis contribution. Now you can say that you're contributing anything. You can say I contributed food, but really you contributed gasoline. Now if there's anything that's added to the contribution pile that isn't the item that's called for, that counts against the total. And then the crisis has bad things that happen. For example, in this food spoilage crisis, if you fail until the end of the next round, non-exiled players cannot use food tokens to increase their action dice result. Lose 1 morale. And morale would go down on the morale tracker again. And you guessed it, if morale gets to 0, the game is over. Now, there are zombies, as you can see, also in the colony. And the same principle applies here at the colony and at the outside locations. And if one of your characters wants to use their action die to attack a zombie, well, they succeed automatically and kill the zombie. But they have to roll the dreaded red die, which I think is a lot of people's problems with the game, at least the people that call it a luck fest. And while we're at the colony, we have to roll just like anywhere else. And in this case, I got a blank. A blank means nothing happens. The zombie is killed. If you roll this little teardrop looking skull character, that is a wound, and your player takes a wound. 3 wounds kills a character. A frostbite token is a wound that is recurring. At the beginning of each round, the player will take another wound. Lastly, there is a tooth. And let's say that Daniel here was attacking zombies and he rolled the tooth. Well, he automatically dies, and morale will drop for that death. We're going to move it up a little bit so we don't hit 0. Now, the player with the lowest influence, that top number that was circled that we looked at earlier, up at the top right, the player with the lowest influence is going to be affected by that bite as well. Now, the controller of that character gets to decide, do I want to automatically let this player die, thus ending the chain reaction that is a zombie bite, or roll the die. If you roll the die and get anything other than a blank, then the cycle continues. That player dies, and then the next player, or that character dies, and the next player has to decide, do I want to automatically kill this character or roll the die? And if, let's say this character, they don't want to lose another morale, because this guy cost 1 as well, then they can say, yep, I'm going to automatically kill this character and end the cycle. You still lose the morale, but you don't risk the chain reaction continuing to happen. The other thing, there are the other locations in the game outside of the colony, of which there are 6, are where players go to do their searching. So if a crisis calls for a shortage of gasoline, the players have to get gas, they probably go to the gas station. If the players really need to kill a lot of zombies and they need weapons, then they might go here to the police station. Because if you take a look up at the top, there's some symbols. The further to the left a symbol is, the higher the chance a player has of finding that type of item at this location. So at the police station, you have a higher chance of finding a weapon. And if the survivor did a search here, lo and behold, they might find some outsiders to add to the colony, or they might find a pistol. And different weapons have different abilities and let players kill zombies without exposing themselves. Players can also, multiple survivors can be at a location. Zombies can spawn at locations, at the outside locations, and players can barricade. And some secret objectives even require that a person kind of holes up at an outside location. But you've got to be careful, because every time you move to or from one of these locations, you have to roll the die. And one of your characters might take a wound, or they might even start an infection. Of course, there's always a chance that nothing will happen. But the more zombies you kill and the more movement you do on the board, the more you have to roll that die. And trust me, it gets very stressful. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we've seen what comes inside of Dead of Winter, seen that it's a lot of components, and seen that there's a lot to the gameplay, let's talk about my final thoughts. I have thoroughly enjoyed Dead of Winter. As you probably know, whenever it was released, there weren't enough copies. I think the demand far exceeded the supply, and so a lot of people had to wait for a very long time, myself included. I didn't even get to see the game until approximately a month ago, when I picked it up and started playing it. Not even a month ago, I guess. So I have thoroughly enjoyed every game of Dead of Winter. Everyone has been very different from the last, with the crisis contribution, or with each round having a different crisis, and food shortages, and zombies overrunning a location. There's just so many different ways to die, so many different ways to lose, and only a few to win. It's very much like Pandemic and Robinson Crusoe. If you're familiar with those games, it's a lot like that, where it's a cooperative game. Even though there is a chance to have a traitor, it is a cooperative game at the heart of it, and it even includes a fully co-op variant. Now, to address the rumors of it being a luck fest, I really got caught up in that at first and thought, yeah, that red die is horrible. It has the ability to shut you down, and it does. It really can ruin the game. But I don't think it's any more of a luck fest than, say, a dungeon crawl like Descent, where every attack and every block and what the Overlord plays, all of that is luck as well. This maybe even has less luck than that, and you can mitigate it with player abilities and strategy, where strategic use of movement instead of just running everywhere and having to roll the die 20 times a turn. So it can be mitigated to some extent. So no, I don't think it's a luck fest. I love the artwork, the theme, and the replayability of this game is just through the roof. It's absolutely fantastic. Plaid Hat did a great job of making a game where every time you play it, it's different. I can't imagine you'd ever play the same game twice, especially with the possibility of a traitor, or you might get 3 crises in a row where you have to get food, and that can shut you down. But you'll have fun while you're starving. That's one of the best things about it. If there's anything that I dislike about the game, it's that luck factor. People are partially right about it. And again, if you get 3 crises in a row that require medicine, well, there ain't that much of it, and you have to search for it. And if you've used medicine to heal your characters, then there can be a shortage, and there's just no way around it. You're just going to lose that crisis, and you're going to have to suffer the penalty for it, which could be fatal to the overall gaming experience. Another thing about it is setup is a beast. There is a lot of components in this game, and it takes a while to set it up. I don't think you'll ever hear anybody say, hey, you want to play a quick game of Dead of Winter, because it does take a while to set it up. Now, all that being said, I love Dead of Winter. Does it have its flaws? Yeah, but almost every game does. I think that as far as zombie survival games go, or zombie games in general, Dead of Winter does the best job of capturing the human element of the zombie apocalypse. Instead of just, oh, zombies got us, those darn zombies. It's more, do we want to kill these helpless survivors that aren't contributing and suffer this penalty, but not have to feed them, so maybe next round we won't lose that morale, we won't starve. It really captures that human element, especially the Crossroads cards. So I'm a very big fan. I can't wait to see what expansions for Dead of Winter Plaid Hat Games comes out with. I ran Dead of Winter through the Flaming Dice Review scoring system, which scores a game based on 8 categories, including theme, component quality, replayability, portability, accessibility, and all of those things are weighed not only against the game and its score, but the game's overall price. That's one thing to keep in mind. And with the price point, a retail price point of about $60, that was factored in for Dead of Winter. And that, all of those, the possible cons and the luck fest accusations against Dead of Winter, which I think were unfounded, Dead of Winter scored a 90 out of 100, which is enough to get a Flaming Dice Review's Editor's Choice score. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. We do game and accessory reviews. And also visit the website at www.flamingdicereviews.com. We do videos there showcasing games, reviewing games, and accessories, as well as written articles. So give it a visit, www.flamingdicereviews.com. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.